Write Part 5 in 1,400 words without heading in simple English words in a separate document. It should be interesting, and every part should be engaging so the audience doesn't get bored. Also keep the wording simple and natural tone. Also make the script human centric and don't give feel of AI generated. Also don't create violated content which can affect YouTube policy. Also don't use names like Sarah, Emma, etc. Told himself it would not happen again. That night with the blind girl and the piano was a mistake, a beautiful mistake, but a mistake all the same. He had bills to pay, a son to feed. He could not risk losing his job over a few songs. For 3 days, he avoided the 40th floor until the very end of his shift. He cleaned it quickly with his head down. He did not look at the door to the piano room. He did not let himself think about the little girl named or the way she smiled when he played. But on the 4th night, she found him again. Was mopping the hallway near the elevators when he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned around and there she was. Same long dark hair, same clouded eyes, same blue dress, though this time with a white sweater over it. "I waited for you," said quietly. "Every night I waited, but you did not come." Felt his chest tighten. He leaned the mop against the wall and crouched down so he was closer to her level. Not that she could see him, but it felt like the right thing to do. "You should not be wandering around by yourself. It is not safe." "I know the way now," she said proudly. "I counted the steps, 42 steps from the room where my nanny sleeps to the piano room. I have been practicing." Could not help but smile a little. This girl had more courage than most grown adults he knew. Here she was, navigating a massive building in complete darkness, all because she wanted to hear music. "Where is your nanny?" he asked. "Sleeping again. She always sleeps after she takes her medicine." Sighed, he looked up and down the hallway. Empty. The security guards rarely came to this floor at night. The cameras were mostly in the lobby and stairwells. If he was careful, no one would ever know. He knew it was a bad idea. He knew he was playing with fire. But when he looked at its hopeful face, he could not bring himself to say no. "One song," he said firmly, "and then you go back to your nanny, deal?" His face broke into a wide grin. "Deal." That night played 3 songs. The next night he played 5. By the end of the week he had stopped counting. It became their secret routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday came to the building with her mother. Her nanny would fall asleep around 9 and would make her way down the hall to the piano room where would be waiting. At first just played while listened. She would sit beside him on the bench with her eyes closed, her small body swaying gently to the rhythm. Sometimes she hummed along. Sometimes she just breathed deeply, like she was trying to memorize every note. But after a few weeks, something shifted. "Can you teach me?" asked one night. "Stop playing, teach you what?" "To play like you do." He looked at her small hands resting on her lap. Then he looked at the keys. Piano was hard enough for people who could see. For someone who was blind, it seemed almost impossible. But then he remembered something his mother once told him. She said that music was not about the eyes. It was about the heart, the ears, the soul. You did not need to see the keys to feel them. "Give me your hands," said softly. Held them out without hesitation. He took them gently and placed them on the piano. Her fingers were tiny against the wide keys. She gasped at the cool touch of the ivory. "This is middle C," said, pressing her finger down on the key. A clear note rang out. "Everything starts here. This is home." Pressed the key again on her own, and again. Each time her smile grew wider. "Now this is D," he continued, moving her finger 1 key to the right. "And this is E. You feel how they are next to each other. Your fingers can learn the distance. You do not need your eyes, you just need practice." That night learned 5 notes. By the following week, she could play a simple scale. By the end of the month, she was picking out basic melodies with both hands. Was amazed. The girl had a gift. Her sense of hearing was sharper than anyone he had ever taught. She could tell when a note was even slightly off. She could remember melodies after hearing them only once. What took most students months to learn, figured out in days. But more than her talent, it was her spirit that touched him. She never complained. She never got frustrated when she made mistakes. She just laughed and tried again, over and over until she got it right. "You are a natural," told her one night after she played a full song without any errors. Shook her head. "I am not a natural, I just have a good teacher." Those words hit harder than he expected. For years he had felt like a failure, a man who gave up on his dreams, a father who could barely provide for his son. But this little girl saw something different in him. She saw a teacher, a musician, a person worth believing in. The truth was changing him just as much as he was changing her. Started humming again at home. His son noticed right away. "Dad, you are singing," the boy said one morning over breakfast. "You never sing anymore." Paused with his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. He had not even realized he was doing it. "I guess I am," he said softly. His son stared at him for a long moment, then a small smile crossed his face. "I like it. You sound happy." Happy turned that word over in his mind. Was he happy? He was not sure, but he was something lighter, something closer to the man he used to be. Meanwhile, changes were happening in Swirled too. Her mother had started noticing things, was talking more at dinner. She was practicing finger movements on the table, on the couch, on any flat surface she could find. She was humming songs her mother had never heard before. "Where are you learning all this?" her mother asked one evening. Froze. She had promised she would keep their lessons a secret. He told her he could get in big trouble if anyone found out. She did not fully understand why, but she knew it was important. "Just from listening to things," she said carefully. "I like music now." Her mother did not look convinced, but she let it go for the moment. Over the next few weeks, his mother tried to encourage her new interest. She hired the best piano teachers money could buy, famous instructors who charged hundreds of dollars an hour. They came to the house with fancy methods and complicated exercises, but rejected every single one of them. "They do not play like him," she cried after the third teacher left. "They do not understand." "Like who?" her mother demanded. "Who is teaching you?" But would not say. She pressed her lips together and shook her head. She would never betray. He was her friend, her real friend, the only person who treated her like she was normal instead of broken. Her mother grew worried. Someone was influencing her daughter, someone she did not know, someone who had access to her child without her permission. As a single mother who had clawed her way to the top of the business world, she trusted very few people. And when it came to her daughter, she trusted no one at all. She decided she would find out the truth, no matter what it took. Back in the piano room, had no idea that a storm was coming. He sat with on the bench as they practiced a duet together. Their fingers moved in sync. The melody filled the room. For those few precious minutes, the rest of the world did not exist. There was no fear, no worry, no pain. Just two broken souls finding peace in the music. Said suddenly, her fingers still moving across the keys. "Yes. Do you think my mom would like it if I played for her one day?" Felt a lump form in his throat. He thought about his own son, about all the things he wished he could give him, about the dreams he had let slip away. "I think," he said slowly, "that any mother would give anything to hear her child play like you do." Smiled, a big, bright, beautiful smile. She had no idea that soon, very soon, her mother would hear everything. And nothing would ever be the same again. Son had started sleeping with the bedroom door open. It was a small thing, but noticed. For 2 years after his mother passed, the boy kept his door shut tight, like he was hiding from the world, like he did not want anyone to see him cry into his pillow at night. But lately, things were different. The boy left his door open. He talked more at dinner. He even asked to help him with a school project about famous musicians. That one nearly made choke on his food. "Why musicians?" asked carefully. His son shrugged. "I do not know, I just think music is cool now, maybe because you have been humming so much." Looked at his son across the small kitchen table. The boy was growing up so fast. He had his mother's eyes, her stubborn chin, her way of tilting his head when he was thinking hard about something. "I did not know you noticed," said quietly. "I notice everything, Dad." The boy poked at his mashed potatoes. "You seem happier, I like it." That night after his son fell asleep, sat on the edge of his bed and stared at the wall. Happy. His son had used that word too. Was he happy? He still worked a job that paid almost nothing. He still came home exhausted every morning. He still missed his wife so much it hurt to breathe sometimes. But there was something else now, a small light in the darkness, a reason to keep going beyond just survival. That little blind girl had crawled into his heart without permission. Teaching her piano had reminded him of who he used to be, a dreamer, a musician, a man who believed that beauty could exist even in the hardest places. He wondered what was doing right now, probably sleeping in some fancy house he could never afford. Her mother was clearly wealthy. The nanny, the late nights at that expensive building, the way talked about things like private cars and housekeepers like they were normal. Their worlds were so different. He knew that whatever this was, it could not last forever. Sooner or later, reality would catch up. It always did. But for now, he let himself hold onto the hope, just a little longer. Across the city, in a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows, his mother was not sleeping at all. Her name was Helen. She was 41 years old and had built her tech company from nothing. No family money, no connections, just brains, grit, and a refusal to quit when everyone told her she would fail. Being a single mother was never part of her plan, but when's father walked out before the girl was even born, Helen made a choice. She would give her daughter everything. The best doctors when they discovered was blind. The best schools. The best opportunities. She would work twice as hard so her little girl would never feel like she was missing anything. But lately, Helen felt like she was missing something. Her daughter was changing and she did not know why. It started with the humming. Would hum little melodies while eating breakfast. Then came the finger movements. Would tap on tables, on counters, on her own legs like she was playing an invisible piano. And then the questions. "Mom, do you know what a chord is? Do you know the difference between major and minor keys? Mom, did you know that was almost deaf when he wrote some of his best music?" Helen did not know any of these things, and she certainly did not know where her blind 8-year-old daughter was learning them. The piano teachers she hired were useless, refused to work with any of them. She would sit with her arms crossed and her jaw tight, not saying a word until they left. Then she would cry. "They do not play like him," kept saying. "They do not understand me like he does." He, a man. Someone was teaching her daughter in secret. Someone trusted more than the experts Helen had handpicked. The thought made Helen's blood boil. She tried asking gently. She tried demanding. She even tried bribing with a trip to Disneyland. But the girl would not budge. Whoever this person was protecting him with everything she had. That only made Helen more worried. She started paying closer attention to schedule. The girl only went to 2 places regularly. School and Helen's office building on the nights she worked late. School was out of the question. Had been going there for 3 years and never once mentioned music. That left the office. Helen pulled up the security logs from the past 2 months. She looked at every person who entered and exited the building after 7 in the evening. Delivery drivers, maintenance workers, security guards, cleaning staff. Cleaning staff. Her eyes stopped on one name. T-night janitor, 40 floor access, employed for 2 years, No complaints, no incidents, completely unremarkable. She pulled up his employee photo. A tired-looking man with kind eyes and a face that had seen too much hardship. Nothing special, nothing suspicious. But something in Helen's gut told her to dig deeper. She made a phone call to the head of building security, a man who owed her several favors. "I need you to find out everything about this janitor," she said. "Where he came from, what he did before, who he is." "Is there a problem?" the security chief asked. Helen paused. Was there a problem? She did not know yet. Maybe this man was completely innocent. Maybe he had nothing to do with sudden interest in music. Maybe she was being paranoid. But she had not built an empire by ignoring her instincts. "Just get me the information," she said, "and do not tell anyone I asked." 2 days later, a file landed on her desk. Helen opened it and began to read. What she found made her sit back in her chair. Had attended one of the best music schools in the country on a full scholarship. He graduated top of his class. Critics called him a prodigy. He was supposed to have a brilliant career as a concert pianist. But then his wife got sick, cancer. He dropped out of the music world completely to take care of her. When she died 3 years ago, he was left alone with a young son and a mountain of medical debt. He took the first job he could find. Night janitor, minimum wage, the end. Helen stared at the photo attached to the file. The same tired eyes, the same weathered face. But now she saw something else. She saw a man who gave up everything for the people he loved. She closed the file and looked out her window at the city lights below. This man was either a saint or a threat. She could not decide which. He had access to her daughter. He had been spending time with her child without permission. That alone was enough to fire him, maybe even call the police. But words echoed in her mind. He understands me. He plays like no one else. He is my friend. Helen needed to see for herself. She needed to know what was really happening behind that door on the 40th floor. She checked her calendar. Thursday would be coming to the office in 2 days while Helen had her late board meeting. Except this time, there would be no board meeting. Helen was going to hide in the shadows and watch. She was going to find out the truth about this janitor and what he was doing with her little girl. And if she did not like what she saw, she would destroy him. No one messed with her daughter, no one. She picked up her phone and dialed security again. "Thursday night," she said coldly. "I want 2 guards on standby near the 40th floor. Do not let them be seen. But if I give the signal, I want that janitor detained immediately." "Understood," the security chief replied. Helen hung up and stared at the file one more time. Had no idea what was coming for him. In 48 hours, his whole life was about to change. And so was hers. Thursday came faster than Helen expected. She spent the whole day distracted. Meetings blurred together. Emails went unanswered. Her assistant asked 3 times if she was feeling okay. Helen just nodded and said she had a lot on her mind. That was the truth. She could not stop thinking about what she might find tonight. Part of her hoped she was wrong. Part of her hoped this janitor was just a kind man who happened to share a love of music with a lonely little girl. Maybe there was an innocent explanation for all of this. Maybe she was overreacting. But another part of her, the part that had survived boardroom battles and hostile takeovers, and a decade of people trying to tear her down, that part told her to stay alert. Trust no one. Protect what matters most. And nothing mattered more than. At 6:30 that evening, Helen's driver brought to the office. The nanny came along as usual, a tired woman in her 50s who meant well but had the energy of a deflating balloon. Helen watched them settle into the private lounge on the 40th floor, sat on the couch with a book of raised letters while the nanny made herself tea. "I will be in meetings until late," Helen told them. "Call me if you need anything." Nodded without looking up. Her fingers traced the bumps on the page, but Helen could tell she was not really reading. The girl seemed distracted, excited even, like she was waiting for something. Or someone. Helen walked out of the lounge and headed toward the conference room, but she did not go inside. Instead, she slipped into an empty office 2 doors down from the piano room. She left the lights off, and the door cracked open just enough to see the hallway. Then she waited. The minutes crawled by like hours. Helen stood in the darkness, barely breathing. She thought about all the nights she had worked late while her daughter sat alone in that lounge, all the dinners she had missed, all the bedtime stories she had been too tired to tell. She thought she was giving everything by building this company, but maybe she had been taking something away too. At 9:15, she heard footsteps. Helen pressed herself against the wall and peered through the crack in the door. A man walked down the hallway pushing a cleaning cart. He was tall and thin, wearing a faded gray uniform. His shoulders were slightly hunched, like he carried invisible weight on his back. The janitor. He stopped outside the piano room. He looked left and right, checking if anyone was around. Then he opened the door and slipped inside. Helen's heart pounded. She waited another minute. Then she heard more footsteps, smaller this time, softer. Appeared in the hallway. The little girl moved slowly but confidently, one hand brushing the wall to guide herself. She counted under her breath. Helen could barely hear it. 39, 40, 41, 42. Stopped at the piano room door. She knocked twice, soft and quick, a secret signal. The door opened. Helen could not see who opened it, but she heard a man's voice, low and gentle. "Right on time," he said. "Come in." Smiled and stepped inside. The door closed behind her. Helen's hands were shaking. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to the security chief. "Stand by, 40th floor, wait for my signal." Then she crept down the hallway toward the piano room. The door was not fully closed. There was a gap, maybe an inch wide, just enough to see inside, just enough to hear. Helen pressed her back against the wall beside the door. She turned her head slowly and looked through the gap. What she saw made her freeze. Sat at the grand piano with beside him on the bench. The little girl's hands were on the keys. Her face was scrunched up in concentration. Hands hovered near hers, ready to guide but not taking over. "Remember," he said softly, "feel the keys. Do not think about them, just feel." Nodded, she took a deep breath, and then she began to play. The melody was simple but beautiful, a song Helen had never heard before. Small fingers moved across the keys with surprising grace. She made a few mistakes, hitting wrong notes here and there, but she did not stop. She kept going, and when she reached a tricky part, gently guided her hand to the right key without saying a word. Helen watched in silence. Her throat felt tight, her eyes burned. This was not what she expected. This was not some stranger taking advantage of her daughter. This was a teacher, a patient, kind, gentle teacher who was giving something Helen's money could never buy. Confidence. When the song ended, let out a big breath. "How was that?" "Better than last time," said. "You are getting stronger. Your left hand is really improving." Beamed. "I practiced every day, on the kitchen table, on my desk at school, even on my legs when I am in the car." Laughed, a warm sound that filled the room. "That is dedication. Your mother must wonder what you are doing." Smile faded a little. "She does not notice much. She is always busy." The words hit Helen like a punch to the stomach. She does not notice much. Was that true? Was she so caught up in her work that her own daughter felt invisible? Was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. "I am sure your mother loves you very much. Sometimes grown-ups get so busy trying to give their kids everything that they forget to just be there. It does not mean they do not care." "Do you do that with your son?" asked. "Sometimes," admitted. I work at night, so I miss a lot of his evenings, but I try to make up for it in other ways. I help him with homework in the morning. I make him pancakes on Sundays. I tell him I love him every single day." He paused. "It is not perfect, but it is something." Nodded slowly. "I wish my mom would play music with me, like you do." "Then play for her," said. "Show her what you have learned. I promise you, any mother in the world would give anything to hear her child play like this." Tears were streaming down Helen's face now. She covered her mouth with her hand to keep from making a sound. "Do you really think so?" whispered. "I know so," said. "Now come on. Let us practice that duet we have been working on. I think you are almost ready." He positioned his hands on the lower keys, positioned hers on the higher ones. They looked at each other. Well, looked at. She faced straight ahead, seeing nothing but feeling everything. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready." They began to play together. The music that filled the room was unlike anything Helen had ever heard. It was not perfect. It was not polished. But it was pure. Two people connected by something deeper than words. A lonely man who had lost everything finding purpose again. A blind little girl discovering that her darkness did not define her. Helen stepped back from the door. She leaned against the wall and slid down until she was sitting on the cold floor. Her whole body shook with silent sobs. She thought about the security guards waiting for her signal. One text and they would rush in. They would drag this man away. They would probably arrest him. His life would be ruined. But he had done nothing wrong. He had done everything right. He had seen her daughter not as a burden or a charity case. He had seen her as a person. A talented, capable, wonderful person who just needed someone to believe in her. Helen pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled as she typed. "Stand down, false alarm, go home." She sent the message and let the phone fall to her lap. The music continued on the other side of the door. A janitor and a blind girl playing a duet. Two souls that never should have met, making something beautiful together. Helen closed her eyes and listened. For the first time in years, she did not think about work. She did not think about money or power or success. She just thought about her daughter. And she made a decision. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, she would let them have their music. Was mopping the lobby the next morning when his supervisor found him. "You need to go to the executive floor," the man said. His face was unreadable. "The CEO wants to see you." Felt his stomach drop. The CEO, that could only mean one thing. Someone had found out about the piano lessons. Someone had reported him. His secret was out. He thought about running, just walking out the door and never coming back. But that would only make things worse. He had a son to think about. He could not afford to lose this job without at least trying to explain himself. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt like it lasted forever. Stared at his reflection in the metal doors. He looked tired, old, like a man who had already been defeated before the fight even started. When the doors opened, a young woman in a neat suit was waiting for him. "Mister?" she asked politely. He nodded. He did not trust his voice. "Follow me, please." She led him down a hallway he had cleaned 100 times, past the conference rooms, past the piano room. His heart ached when he saw that door. He wondered if he would ever sit at that bench again. He wondered if knew what was happening. They stopped at a large wooden door at the end of the hall. The assistant knocked twice, then opened it. "He is here," she announced. Stepped inside. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Expensive furniture, paintings on the walls. A desk made of dark wood that probably cost more than everything owned. And behind that desk stood a woman. She was tall and elegant, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. The kind of eyes that had seen through 1,000 lies. Recognized something in those eyes, something familiar. Size the same shape, the same depth, just without the clouds. This was Mother. "Mister," she said, her voice was cool and controlled, "please sit down." He lowered himself into the chair across from her desk. His legs felt weak. His hands trembled in his lap. The woman did not sit. She stood by the window with her arms crossed, staring out at the city below. "Do you know why you are here?" she asked. Swallowed hard, "I think so." "Tell me." He took a deep breath. There was no point in lying. "Your daughter. I have been teaching her piano in the room down the hall at night while you were working." He paused, waiting for the explosion. The anger, the threats, but the woman said nothing. She just kept staring out the window. "I know it was wrong," continued, his voice breaking. "I know I should have asked permission. I know I crossed a line. But I swear to you I never hurt her. I would never hurt her. She is just a kid who loves music. And I am just a man who forgot he loved it too." Silence filled the room. His heart pounded so loud he was sure she could hear it. Finally the woman turned around, and for the first time he saw that her eyes were red, like she had been crying. "I was behind the door last night," she said quietly. "I saw everything." His blood went cold. "I had security on standby," she continued. "One word from me and they would have dragged you out of this building in handcuffs. I was ready to destroy you." She walked slowly toward her desk and sat down across from him. Her eyes never left his face. "But then I heard her play," she whispered. "I heard my daughter play the piano, and I heard her laugh, really laugh, something I have not heard in months." Her voice cracked. "Something I have not been able to give her no matter how hard I tried." Did not know what to say. He sat frozen in his chair, barely breathing. "I did my research on you," Helen said. She picked up a folder from her desk and opened it. "Full scholarship to one of the best music schools in the country, top of your class. Critics called you a prodigy. You were supposed to be famous." She looked up at him. "What happened?" Felt tears sting his eyes. "My wife got sick. She needed me more than the world needed another piano player. And when she passed, I had a son to raise, bills to pay. Dreams do not put food on the table." Helen nodded slowly. She closed the folder and set it aside. "My daughter has rejected every piano teacher I have hired," she said. "The best instructors in the city. She refused to work with any of them. Do you know what she told me?" Shook his head. "She said they do not play like you. They do not understand her like you do." Helen leaned forward. "In 8 weeks you gave my blind daughter something I have been trying to give her for 8 years. Confidence, joy, a sense that she is not broken, that she is capable of beautiful things." A tear rolled down his cheek. He wiped it away quickly. "I am not here to fire you," Helen said softly. "I am here to offer you a job." Blinked. "What?" "My company is launching a new foundation, a music program for children with disabilities, kids who have been told their whole lives that they cannot do certain things because of how they were born." She paused. "I need someone to lead it, someone who understands that talent has nothing to do with what the world can see, someone who believes in the impossible." Stared at her. He could not process what he was hearing. "It would be a full-time position," Helen continued. "Good salary, benefits, enough to take care of your son properly. You would be teaching music again, not on a concert stage but somewhere that matters even more." She stood up and walked around the desk until she was standing right in front of him. "There is one condition," she said, a small smile crossing her face for the first time. "Gets to remain your first student. She made me promise." Tried to speak but no words came out. His whole body was shaking now. Everything he had lost, everything he had given up. It was all coming back to him in a way he never expected. "Why?" he finally managed to ask. "Why would you do this for me?" Helen looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that broke him completely. "Because you did not see a blind girl when you looked at my daughter. You saw a musician. and that is the greatest gift anyone has ever given her. 6 months later, the foundation opened its doors. Stood in the bright new music room surrounded by pianos and violins and guitars. Children of all ages filled the space. Some were in wheelchairs, some had hearing aids, some could not see, but all of them were smiling. All of them were ready to learn. Sat at the front row, her fingers already dancing on her lap. Beside her sat a boy with curious eyes and his mother's stubborn chin. Son. He had started taking lessons too, not because his father pushed him, but because he wanted to understand why music mattered so much. In the back of the room, Helen stood with her arms crossed, watching. She came to every opening class. She said it was to check on her investment, but knew the truth. She came to watch her daughter shine. Cleared his throat and addressed the room. Music is not about being perfect, he said. It is not about playing every note right. It is about feeling something and sharing it with the world. Every single one of you has something to share, and I am here to help you find it. He sat down at the piano, moved to sit beside him just like she always did. Ready? He asked. She smiled, ready. And together they began to play. The melody filled the room, imperfect, beautiful, alive. Two broken people who found each other in the darkness. A janitor who remembered his dream. A blind girl who learned to see with her heart. And a mother who finally understood that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought. They can only be given. Note by note. Kindness by kindness. One song at a time.